Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be spending another afternoon with you. Welcome back. You should have all been sent this link. Let me get that in there. All right, and that would bring you to here. It contains the recording to the 4-hour webinar we did last month. PDFs of all the slides I went over, and then what I pasted in the chat window last time. Then 2 additional files, the large chunk of material I wasn't able to cover, so I included the detailed notes as well as the homework file for today. Let's open that up. All right, as I put in the notes in the last webinar, I was able to get through the the designing a search portion and the how to get access to the papers you find portion, but wasn't able to get to the narrowing. That's the big chunk that I made you all notes about, and the one we're going to practice today. But then I realized I didn't really get to these others much on the side. I kind of rushed through the whole PubMed alerts thing. So in the homework file, I also included notes on the journal browsing and the Web of Science monster database, noting also that I also never got that last piece, which is how to read journal articles. You know, the best strategy to dig into funding sources and ferret out conflicts of interest, and you know, critically assess the methods researchers use, the statistics, go through all these slimy ways that funders and researchers try to skew the science. That's going to be a whole new webinar in itself. I'm hoping to prepare that by the end of the year. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but by the end of the year. But that's the next webinar I have queued up for everyone. And then I ended up with these kind of cheat sheet style critical slides taken from the last webinar, just to remind ourselves of the step-by-steps for the not Medline SB strategy. And then what we're going to go through today, how to narrow down exposure searches, by which I mean searches on foods or nutrients or toxins or therapies, and also how to narrow our searches on disease conditions. And I was excited to see, let me pull this back. I was excited to see that there's actually a nice mix of both diseases like autoimmune diseases, Alzheimer's, as well as exposures like fasting, and then B12 down here. So it's going to be a nice mix. I'm excited to jump in. If you didn't have a chance to add your idea to the list or vote on any of the others, it's not too late. You can go here. I will chat window that. Oh, I think I cut off a letter there. Go to that last one I just pasted there. Before we jump in, just a few logistics. If you are having technical difficulties, then there is a live Zoom staff standing by Let me paste that in. For technical difficulties, go here. Please, oh, and then if they are unable to help you, we also have Nutrition Facts staff and volunteers standing by as well. Though presumably if the Zoom people can't help, then I don't know what we'll be able to do to help. But I want to avail you to that option as well. Please reserve the Q&A button that you see at the top of your Zoom window for actual content questions, not logistic questions, but actually, like if you have a question about anything I covered in the webinar last month, or the notes on the narrowing PDF, or the homework PDF, or anything, anytime during this presentation, any question comes up, click the Q&A button and ask a question anytime. Oh, I just want to keep a nice chat going. We got good feedback last time that the chat box was kind of helpful to folks. I'm going to try to use that consistently throughout today. And then at 2:45 Eastern, I'll do 10 minutes of questions. And so you can ask questions anytime, and we'll reserve these 2 blocks of questions. Then we'll do a 5-minute break from 2:55 to 3. Then I'll do one final Q&A session for the last 10 minutes from 3:50 to 4 o'clock. So let me just paste that schedule in here. Okay, and then the chat button next to the Q&A is for answering questions. So anytime I ask a question, please use the chat function to respond. Let's test it out. Who can tell me what this concoction is? Chat me the answer. Oh, Michael, Freddie got it right off the bat. Hibiscus tea. Very nice. Oh, okay. Bonus question. Why am I using a straw to drink it? And there it is. And Mike, oh, God, it went by so quickly. Michael somebody, sorry, I didn't see your last name. Yes, the acidity, right? Whenever we eat or drink sour foods or beverages, we need to wash, rinse, rinse our mouth out with water, or use a straw to avoid eroding our enamel. We have a smart group today answering within milliseconds. That's fantastic. All right. So the chat box is working. That's great. All right, looks like we're good to go. So let's go to the list here and see what we'll search first. It looks like autoimmune diseases won the popularity contest, although it's kind of interesting how they scored this. The down votes must weigh more than up votes, right? Because fasting actually got more anyway. But anyway, autoimmune diseases is number 1. So let's begin there. Step A is to ask yourself, is that an exposure or a disease? All right. So are autoimmune diseases an exposure or a disease? Chat me an answer. And Manuel, yes, Manuel and Marta were the first to reply in. It is indeed a disease. All right. And so let's go back here. So we are going to use this search here, this strategy. And so that was step A. Step B is to create the search. Now, so what I call X search here, see that little term in red, X search? X is what you're looking for. So X in this case is autoimmune diseases. So this is the autoimmune diseases search we're going to construct right now. I think last month in the notes I called it widget. I think that confused a lot of people. I was afraid people wouldn't like algebra, so I didn't want to use X, but widget was even worse. But it's the same thing I'm talking about. X search means to search for whatever we're looking for. Okay, so how do we construct the search? Well, that's where our training last month comes in, the not Medline SB strategy. Step B is to create the search. So step B1 is to do what you see here. What is finding the best matching medical subject heading using the mesh database. Okay, where do we find the mesh database? Well, okay, well, if we're starting from scratch, I'm going to open up a new tab here and just put in pubmed.gov, pubmed.gov, pubmed.com also works. And then you can either use this pull-down menu here and click there, or right here you see there's a link to the mesh database over here. Let me put in that direct link for people who want to follow along. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click that, and it takes us to here, the mesh database. All right, so we're going to type in autoimmune diseases, if I can spell it right. Press enter, and poof, there it is, number one right there. We click on it, and you'll see it's actually a really broad category. So here's autoimmune disease. You can see there are dozens of subheadings of all the individual autoimmune diseases, right? So you'll see like there's rheumatoid arthritis, there's lupus down here, type 1 diabetes. And so if you just search for autoimmune diseases, it automatically explodes the term. That's what PubMed actually calls it, meaning it automatically includes mesh searches for each and every subheading in the hierarchy. So as you can see when you do this, so let's just search for autoimmune diseases. So I'm just going to click Add to Search Builder, autoimmune diseases, click Search PubMed, and you'll see that it brings up about 500,000 or hundreds of thousands of hits come up. And so that is presumably why so many people were interested in me searching for autoimmune diseases, because it seems impossible if there's 500,000 hits. All right, well, to search for, and the reason you get so many is because you didn't just get every single article on autoimmune diseases in general, right? You got every single article on every single type of autoimmune disease. To search for just the concept of autoimmune diseases in general, all you have to do is check a simple box. All right, so I'm just going to go back here on my browser, and you can see under there, these are hidden. A lot of people don't know about these, but there's this little box here that says "Do not include mesh terms found below this term in the mesh hierarchy." So let's call that step B1A here. So the next step is decide whether you want to also search for all the subheadings. If we don't, and we don't, because we're just interested in autoimmune diseases in general, like what diet can do for autoimmune disease in general, we are going to click that box. And then, oh, well, what's this other box here? All right, there's two check boxes. The other one is restrict to mesh major topic. What does that mean? That means that you only want articles for which what you're searching for is the major topic of the paper. So if you're interested in autoimmune diseases in general, and there's some article in some surgery magazine on appendicitis or something, and it just happens to describe offhand how one of the patients going into surgery has MS, then that article may get an autoimmune diseases tag because they mentioned an autoimmune disease somewhere in the article, even though that's not really what the article is mainly about. So let's make that step B1B. All right, decide whether we want articles that really just focus on the topic at hand. If so, we want to check the box. Let's indeed check that box because we want autoimmune diseases, articles focused on autoimmune diseases. All right, so now let's do that. So now that we click those we can go back, add to search builder. Oh, there we go. And as you can, it puts a little special annotation at the end. We search PubMed, instead of getting hundreds of thousands, we only get tens of thousands. Here we go. Instead of 400,000, we got 30,000. That is something we can work with. All right, so let's go back to our search strategy to see what the next step is. All right, we did, now we're up to step B2. Step B2 is to search PubMed using that mesh keyword or keywords. You say, wait a second, didn't we just do that? Well, note it says keyword or keywords plural, right? So let's say, going back to the mesh page here, so let's say that the reason you're interested in searching about autoimmune diseases is, let's say you have, Hashimoto's disease, which is a type of autoimmune thyroid disease, and then you just got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, another autoimmune disease, and you're like, damn, what's next, right? So you want to know what diet can do for autoimmune diseases in general. But if you're also interested in what diet can do for your two diseases specifically, well, you can add those to your search too. And so here is rheumatoid arthritis. You click on that and add to search builder, right? And then there's also Hashimoto's is actually under autoimmune thyroiditis. There's actually multiple types of autoimmune thyroiditis, but we want Hashimoto disease, so we click on it. And you can see it already has our rheumatoid arthritis, so we want to add it to the search builder with an or. Okay, and so there we have rheumatoid arthritis or Hashimoto's disease. And so if we were interested in autoimmune diseases in general, or those two diseases specifically, what we'd end up searching for is something like this. Not something like this, exactly that, right? So there we go. Autoimmune diseases or rheumatoid arthritis or Hashimoto's disease. But for right now, let's just stick with what ranked first there, autoimmune diseases in general. And so let's say that's what we came up with. Autoimmune diseases, and then that MAJR, that's saying that we're going to stick to articles for which it's a major topic. And then there's a colon there, and then NOEXP, that's no explosion. We want no explosion of subheadings. All right, and so step B2 is done. That completes the mesh half of the search, the 90% of articles that have been tagged by professionals. Step B3 is getting at that new and exciting, hot off the press, not yet indexed 10%. Oops, I cut off the H. I think you'll understand it anyway. All right. Remember, the not yet indexed 10% rely on just straight, dumb, automated computer text words straight from the article. So since we don't have anyone smart looking at them, we really have to think for ourselves what word or words would be in the articles that we're interested in. All right, so we are at step B3. We're trying to think of words for that 10% straight text where if we're interested in articles on autoimmune diseases and we can't rely on people to actually read them for us and tag them, what might be some suggestions for words we might use in this text words section? Please chat me up. And in fact, I will start adding them here. Okay. So, Bob Farrell says, well, why don't we use the word autoimmune? That sounds good. Now, Cooper says, what about Synthroid? Synthroid is a drug used to treat hyperactive thyroid disease. That would be, we might use something like that if we were interested in specifically autoimmune thyroid disease, but if we're interested in all autoimmune use. A few people have suggested inflammation. I think inflammation might be a little too broad, right? Imagine putting all the articles with the word inflammation, because there's lots of types of inflammation that have nothing to do with autoimmune diseases. So what we're looking for are words that are going to be in the articles we're interested in, but generally not in the articles we're less interested in. That's a good one. Oh, let me see if I can scroll up to see who said that. Yes, Casey said, what about, oh, that's a really good one. I don't think I thought of that one. Autoimmune or autoimmunity, right? There may be an article that doesn't say autoimmune, but says autoimmunity, but we're very much interested in that. Anything else? I'm looking through. Some people have suggested various diseases within autoimmune disease, but again, we're looking for just these general autoimmune diseases. Autoimmunity, very good. Okay. There's one that hasn't come up yet, but I know because I've searched for this before, that this is also one we might look for. Autoimmune. Uh-oh, I'm off the page here. Let me move that around. See what I did? There's actually articles that spell autoimmune differently. We should always think of plurals, different spellings. And so now, obviously, if this was one of the mesh tagged articles, auto-immune, they'd be like, oh, that's autoimmune disease. But remember, we cannot rely on that. So we have to think of all the alternative spellings, and auto-immune is one of them. Okay. And so let me just look at anything else. I am someone likes my autoimmune. Oh, so autoimmune with a dash actually was a Leneka or Leniki. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. Actually nailed the auto-immune. Excellent. Good job. All right. Those are the only ones that I can think of. In fact, I don't even think I thought of the autoimmunity one. So we're doing better than even I was. All right. So that's the good thing about crowdsourcing. All right. And so then the final step for step B is step B4. And that is, we're going to combine the mesh keyword search with an or, with, in parentheses, the text keyword search, not Medline SB. All right, so what does that mean for what we came up with? Let's put it all together now. I'm adding in the one that we just added. So I think this is what it's going to look like. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Okay, so what we came up with was, so let me go back to our list here. Here we go. Okay, so step B4 is combine the mesh keyword search. That's that first part, the autoimmune diseases, with that bracket, or and then in parentheses, autoimmune or autoimmunity or auto-immune, and then not Medline SB. All right, so we did it. That's our search. That is what this whole X search thing is. And just to emphasize that, step B4 is the X search, right? That is our search that we're going to use for autoimmune diseases. So now we can finally start narrowing, which is step C. Okay. So as you can see, oh, I'm sorry, we're on the wrong one. This is narrowing an exposure search. We are narrowing a disease search. We'll get to the exposure next when we do fasting, I guess is the next one on the list. Okay, but as you can see, the first narrowing step for a disease search, let's call that step C1, is we perform the following PubMed search. So we're first, the step C1 is we're going to search for meta-analyses and systematic reviews that pertain to our topic and whatever lifestyle factors we're interested in. All right, if you want to know if sleep helps with autoimmune diseases, you could use a bunch of sleep terms here for that lifestyle factors here in yellow. So sleep terms might be like bedtime or napping. Or if you're interested in the effects of physical activity, pro or con on autoimmune diseases, here in the lifestyle factors section, you'd put in words like exercise or sedentary. Right? But as a Nutrition Facts webinar, let's look at dietary factors. So here's ones that I might suggest. These are ones that I might use in a search. Woo! So there's kind of a long list there, but I don't want to kind of miss anything. So step C1 here, looks really simple, right? One little line, but for our autoimmune search, it translates out to a PubMed search for this. All right, so it looks complicated, but if you look closely, that's straight from step C1 here, right? We got our X search, right, that we came up with. Then the meta-analyses or systematic SB, and then the lifestyle factors at the end, all right? All right, so it's a matter of just plugging that in to PubMed. All right, so now we're going to switch from searching the MESH database to searching PubMed. I think I copied and pasted that well. Let's click enter and see what happens. What? Okay, obviously I did not. That's because I pasted in all of this too. Okay, sorry about that. I was getting worried for a moment there. All right, let me just paste in this portion and hopefully that'll work. All right, press search. And there we go. All right, so 61 meta-analyses or systematic reviews on the effects of diet on autoimmune disease, or at least that's what we were kind of going for. All right, so let's scroll through this list. See, the first one here is about colorectal cancer and chronic liver disease. It probably has something to do with some autoimmune liver disease. That doesn't sound like it would pertain to our topic. Here's one generally on vitamin D deficiency. Okay, this one looks interesting. So this is on the inhibition of these T helper cells by medicinal plants. Now, you perhaps looking at this might not know what TH17 means. It might not jump out at you, but that definitely sounds like an interesting article. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up in another tab here. And it's interesting, you know what that journal is? That journal is phytotherapy research. What does phyto mean? Plant. That's plant therapy research. There's a journal called Plant Therapy Research, and this is in the current edition, June 2017. That sounds interesting. All right, let's keep looking down the list. This one is about bacterial colonization in general on health. That doesn't seem particularly relevant here. One on the child psychoses. Don't know what that has to do with autoimmune diseases. Now here it talks about vitamin D deficiency, about the autoimmune antibodies to silicone breast implants. That's a little peripheral. Vitamin D and cancer. Again, that sounds interesting, but not exactly on our topic. You can see here this is in a bracket. That means that it's not in English. And so I could have gone up here and just restricted it to English, but it's okay. This is about environmental pollutants and infertility. Again, a little peripheral, though sounds interesting. Vitamin D on lupus. So if you're interested in lupus, that might be interesting. This is on muscle breakdown with exercising. That seems off topic. Autoimmune hepatitis specifically. So basically, as you see, that's all you do is just go through this list. All right, this one sounds interesting. Mercury as environmental stimulus in the development of autoimmunity. See, there we go. There's a perfect use of that autoimmunity there. If I would have just searched for autoimmune and auto-immune, I might totally have missed this very important looking article. Wow, so that's interesting. So that might have something to do with diet, like tuna consumption or something, the development of autoimmunity. So that fits our topic well. So I'd open that up in an extra tab. So you can imagine at the end of this long search, I'm going to have a whole bunch of tabs open, and then we'll do that. And then I'd go to that acquiring step where I pull all those in. Thyroid disorders and PCOS, that's a little off. Vitamin D and gut microbes, that's interesting, but not exact. Oh, this is kind of okay. The significance of our gut microbiome and autoimmunity. That sounds interesting. Maybe related to diet. This is about epigenetics and lupus. That's a little specific. Oh, here's timing of food introductions on the risk of autoimmune diseases. So if you have infants, that sounds interesting. I'm going to open that up. All right, and so then you can just go through the list. And remember, we only have 61 to go through. You go through the list, and you pick out the ones that look super interesting, open up in tabs, and then we are done with this search, and we go back to our other search. So I'm going to leave the rest of this up to you. You have the search, and you can go search it and open that up, but I want to keep moving on because there's lots of other searches we want to do. All right, so I'm going to go back to our next step here. The next step is C2. And so note, all we have to do, so C2 is we're just adding basically 3 letters, that N-O-T, 3 letters right here to the search that we already have. And so just to see what that translates to, that's this search here. So basically the exact same search, but there's a not added there. And what this means, what we're trying to do here in step C2, excuse me, is we're looking at the latest on non-dietary risk factors and treatments, right? So we're specifically excluding the lifestyle factors we're talking about, just so you can put the dietary approach or lifestyle approach kind of in context, right? And so this will pull up kind of the latest and greatest meta-analyses and systematic reviews on autoimmune diseases in general, probably talking about conventional therapies, conventional risk factors, all good things to know. And again, you would just pick the one, a few which that you thought might be interested. Just again, to put it in context, there may be some dramatic new therapy. It has nothing to do with diet, but that can be really helpful to you or your patients. All right. And so I'll let you search for that at your leisure if you're interested. Step C3 is looking for regular reviews and editorials. And so that translates here into this long, crazy search. So that's what you would plug into the PubMed search bar next. And then step C4, as you can see here, remember, I'm just going down through this list here. Step 4 would, just so everyone has it in their chat, is this. That'll get us the randomized trials. And so that translates here with autoimmune diseases to this. Now, step C5 is a little different. And so that's why I'm glad we're going through. You're like, well, wait a second, it's copy and paste. Why are we doing this whole practice thing? Well, there's a few little little differences here. And so I'm glad we're going through today some of these examples. So step C5, this is where we look for all of our search terms as title words. Okay, because we're searching in step C5 for strict text title words, we have to use every possible variation. And so I think that's going to look like this. So let me add some of the ones we thought of before. Okay. I think this is what it's going to look like when we finally put it together. All right. Okay. So see what I did there at the beginning? Look at that chat. I just put in every variation, every spelling, singular, right? Not just autoimmune diseases, but autoimmune disease, right? Because we're looking just specifically as a kind of straight text search. We're looking, if there's an article within the title, the words autoimmune diseases, obviously we want it. But if it has autoimmune disease, singular, we still want it. So that's got to go in there, or autoimmune diseases with the dash, without the dash, singular, plural, and then throw in that autoimmunity as well. Then we're on to step C6, which is a little tricky too. So here what we have to do is we have to split up the mesh and text part of our searches. So if you go back to how we formed this whole search in the first place, you'll see, remember I can do these both together, I think. So as you can see, right, step B2, that's what I mean by the X mesh search. Step B3 is what I mean by our X text search. So see right here in C5, here's the X mesh search, X text search. Well, that we take that straight from our step B2 and B3. Let me just remind people what we figured those out to be. All right. And so then, oh, I'm sorry. This is we're on our exposure search. I clicked on the long slide here. We're doing our disease search, but it's the same thing down here, right? Mesh search part and the text text search part. All right. And so, okay, so let's see what that would come out to be looking like. Okay, so this is what I think that translates to. Okay, so look at that chat I just sent over, right? So that's just the mesh part next to humans, MH, right? Just like it says here, like we're supposed to, C6 here. So that will grab the autoimmune disease articles that have been professionally tagged as about human beings as opposed to studies on mouse lupus or something. But then by doing that, we lose all the non-indexed articles. So we add that back with the text portion of the search. Then the words not, and then all those title words. and then not all the other searches that we've already done. And finally, step C7, we are back to using our X search once again. So that's just our X search minus everything that we did in C6. Okay. Whew. Now I know that looks really ugly, right? But all we're doing is just plugging stuff right in. So that's the final search we would perform for autoimmune diseases. In each one of these searches, C1 through 7, right? We'd scroll through all the titles like we did with C1, opening up any juicy sounding ones into tabs. And then at the end of this process, we're left with this nice long list of tabs. And then we just use the methods I shared last time for acquiring those papers to download them all and then find out what diet can do for autoimmune diseases. Okay, so here's a summary of steps. So we all have them in just one place here. That's the kind of broad overview. And then let's see if it's going to allow me to do this monster paste here. Oh, it's so not going to let me. All right, so let's paste it piecemeal here. Step A, here's our step B's. And finally, our step C's. Hopefully that's not too long that I'll let me paste. No, darn it. Okay, ha. I will paste them separately. Here's 1 through 4. And then 5 through 7. I'm not pasting anything new that I haven't pasted already, but I just wanted to have it all in one place. So we can jump on our next searches. Running an exposure search. I just got a message from Katie saying to make sure I mention when I post something in the chat as people are getting lost. All right. Thank you, Katie. And so I will make sure to mention every time I paste something in the chat. So if you're not following along in the chat, this probably doesn't make a lot of sense, and I apologize. I will tell everyone when I'm putting stuff in the chat box. Okay, so we just did a disease search, running an exposure search, like a search for a food or a treatment rather than a disease, uses the same A and B steps, but a different set of C steps. And so let me paste those. I'm pasting into the box. Oh, my video's off. I'm back. Hello, sorry about that. Well, when I responded to your text, it cut off my video, I guess. Anyway, okay. So for an exposure search, same A and B steps, but here are the C steps, which I just pasted in the chat box. So make sure you have your chat box open. Okay, so as you can see in these lists of A, B, and C steps, step B is really the only step that takes any thinking, right? All the C steps, though they look complicated, are literally just copy and paste, right? Once we come up with that X search, it's just plug and play. So let's go through our next few search topics on our list. I'm going to pull back up our next few topics here. And so what we're going to do is let's go through the next few searches topics on the list. And see if we can come up with that X search with that step B, those step Bs, those B steps. In other words, figure out to construct those searches for plugging into the C steps. So we will do that next. But my alarm says it is 1 minute to Q&A time. So what a perfect segue. And so I'm going to stop now and answer questions for the next 10 minutes, then put up a little 5-minute break sign, and we'll all take a little break. And then we will, we'll resume and go back to our next list of topics. So we'll do fasting next, then Alzheimer's and B12, and on down the list for our hour number 2. All right. What I have done is I have asked a wonderful volunteer to pull together all the questions that have been asked multiple times, like the most popular questions. And so then instead of me just searching, just kind of answering whatever ones popped up first, she'll come up with ones that have maybe the broadest relevance, or people asked a bunch of times, whatever. Okay, so she just sent me a bunch, and so let's start answering. Sarah asks, is it possible to save a search so at a later date you can do the same search to look for more recent papers on the topic? Oh, that's such a great question. Let's go back here to our search. Okay, so here's our monster search. Look at our search, right? So this is this massive, huge search, and we don't want to remember that. So what we do, this used to be called Save Search, but now it's called Create Alert. See this little Create Alert right here? I'm going to try to highlight it. There you go, Create Alert. All you do is you click Create Alert, and then you twiddle your thumbs, and then poof, there it is. There's our long search. So this is now a saved search, and we can actually have it. If we say no, it'll just save it. So we can save it and have it in our My NCBI, like My PubMed, anytime we want, free registration. Or why go through all the trouble to search every day or every week for new articles when you can have PubMed do it for you? And so you say, yes, I want to be emailed anytime a new article is published anywhere in the world on this. I want you to send me an email every single day. I want you to include the abstract so I know what it's actually about, and I want to send me as many as possible. And you can even have it say something in the top of your email like, found a great article, woo! And then you press save, and then if I click save, I would get emails anytime a new autoimmune diseases article got published. Great question, Sarah. And that's part of the PubMed alerts. If you want more details, there are notes on that in the homework assignment PDF, which is found here. Okay. Next question. Michael, great first name, asks, why isn't the end truncation wild? Oh, so why don't I use the wild card, the truncation? Let me get so if I wanted to do autoimmune or autoimmunity, if I did autoimmune and then put an asterisk, then that should pick up autoimmune or autoimmunity. What it would not pick up is auto-immune because it just kind of looks at things at the end. But you could certainly use that, although I don't think does it mess up the mesh searches. This may be good for text search. Oh, wow. So see, it'll bring us all the articles. Can you see this here? On autoimmune betegseg, which I guess is maybe some other language or something. And so you may not want articles on these other things. And so that would be a downside of using a wildcard as opposed to entire words. Okay, Lizel, L-E-I-Z-L, asks, why would I exclude? Very nice. Okay. The question is, in fact, let me go back here to sharing here. Okay, so here's a, well, a disease search, or here's an exposure search. Why? So look at this. Why am I excluding? Why am I excluding meta-analyses or systematic reviews? Aren't that like the highest level of evidence? Absolutely. That's why we searched for it first. So the reason we are excluding it here in step C2 is because we already searched for it. That's what not is used for. Not is used for excluding entire searches. So we search. So remember we had those 61 articles. Where is that? Well, we have it saved. We want to go look back at it. So we already searched. Remember, we found 61 articles in C1. Okay, so we already looked at all the meta-analyses, all the systematic reviews. If we didn't add this not at the end, then this next C2 search would bring up all the ones we've already looked at. That would be a waste of our time. So let's exclude those. We already looked at those. And just look at the standard reviews or editorials. And then the next time we look at the randomized trials, but we've already looked at these. We've already looked at these. That's why we can knot those. And that's why every tier we knot the rest. That's this whole bullseye approach. And so if you have more questions about that, if you're still confused about that, what I would recommend is going back to here and looking here at this file here. That's my narrowing. Have notes. Talk about this whole tiered bullseye approach and exactly why we exclude searches the way we do. And let me just give you that URL once again. Paste that into the box, into the chat box, just in case you don't have it right on hand. Okay. We have 4 minutes left, and Marcia is the next on the list. Would restricting the major topic to the title of the article do the same thing as checking the box, oh, on the mesh major topic? Okay. Major topic, title of the article. So what I think Marcia is asking, and Marcia can correct me if I'm wrong, is, okay, so let's go back actually to our list here. And so by, instead of, oh, actually, sorry, it's probably best that we look here at a mesh database. So let's go back to our mesh database, autoimmune diseases. So instead of clicking this box to restrict to a major topic, why can't we just use autoimmune? Why can't we just do a PubMed search for autoimmune diseases in a title? Search for all articles with autoimmune diseases in a title. So this is like our title search that we did before. I mean, wouldn't that mean that the article is indeed mainly on autoimmune diseases if it's in the very title? Absolutely. But the problem with that approach, just you looking, instead of checking that box and just looking for in the title, there could be an article that really is focused on autoimmune disease in general, but just not have those two words in the title. Like maybe the journal is autoimmune reviews or autoimmunity reviews. That's an actual journal, something like that. And so the title of the article could be, what's the latest? Well, the article is what's the latest in the Journal of Autoimmune Reviews. And so that you would miss that article if you just looked for autoimmune disease in the title. But a professional searcher would know that is about, in fact, mainly about autoimmune diseases, and so would pop up as a major topic. Hope I answered that correctly. Let me see, we got 1 minute left. And let me see. Cheryl and Acuthan ask, is there any limit to the amount of characters that you can enter into a search field? Like, remember that was an absolutely huge search we did up here, and it still seemed to be fine. The answer is, I don't know if there's a limit. I've never run into it. And you can imagine, I've done absolutely huge searches. Now, sometimes you'll get an error message that says, I'm sorry, we couldn't do your search. Try it again. And you're like, oh, I must have messed up something. No, if you just click search again and not change your search at all, it may pop up. Maybe PubMed gets slammed with millions of searches and they just get busy or something. But if you get that message, just try searching again, and it should pop right up. It'll tell you if your search is wrong by giving you no results. That's typically, like, if you mess up syntax or something, it'll say no results, as opposed to just search again. So in terms of, is there a character limit? That's a great question to Google. I don't know of any. I've certainly not ran into any. Anyway, it is time to take your dog out for a pee in 5 minutes. I will see everyone soon. All right, I was able to check in. Well, let me stop this beeping here. I was able to check in with Katie, and the problem people were experiencing was they weren't realizing that I was pasting so much stuff in the chat window. And so they're expecting me to be on PubMed or something doing this stuff when I was all just explaining in the chat window. So don't worry, this entire webinar will be recorded like it was last time. We'll send you a full recording, and we'll send you the full recorded the full chat log. So you'll have the complete so everything that I cut and pasted. So you'll be able to go back. So if you weren't aware that it was in the chat box, now you'll be able to go back and do it again. And I apologize if that wasn't clear. All right, so let us move on to the next one in the list, which is fasting. Okay, and so if you scroll up in your chat window, you'll see that step A is to ask yourself if fasting is an exposure or a disease. What do you think? Chat me. Exposure, absolutely. Linz and Laneka and Shane absolutely were first to reply. It is indeed an exposure, which is great because we didn't want to do one of those before. Okay, so step B1. So again, in the chat window, the last thing that I that copied and pasted to everyone was the long list of steps. And so you'll see after step A, which we already did, step B1 is to find our best matching medical subject headings using the MESH database. All right, so let's go back to our MESH database here, MESH, and then type in fasting. So we just did a MESH database search for fasting, and there it is, fasting. Ta-da! Abstaining from all foods. We click fasting. I think the reason that it was such a popular topic is not only because fasting is interesting, but because it's so hard to search. Why is it hard to search? Well, because if you add the search builder and just search med for straight fasting as a MESH search term, you will get lots and lots of articles, none of which appear to have anything to do much with fasting, because they're not talking about fasting the therapy. They're talking about fasting like the adjective, like fasting glucose here, or fasting cholesterol, or fasting. So they're not talking about fasting as a major topic of the article. But we know how to search for fasting as a major topic of the article, right? Let's go back. All we have to do is we click our little box, right? We click the little box, and what this does is, oh, did I actually skip that? So step B1A is decide whether we want to search for all subheadings. If you look down, there are no subheadings. Fasting is the end of the line. So this checkbox here doesn't really make much sense. So it doesn't matter whether you check it or not. But then step B1B is decide whether we want to focus on the topic at hand. And yes, indeed, we click that box, and it will restrict to MESH major topic, which is what we want, because we want an article about fasting itself, not just mention the word fasting as some kind of peripheral thing that has nothing to do with the main subject of the article. We add that, we search for that, and you'll see we have a much smaller subset to deal with. And although you see this is about fasting zebrafish and other fasting animals, but at least they're about fasting. So here's one about Ramadan. It's kind of a whole fasting ritual. Here's another one, insulin sensitivity during fasting. Anyway, okay, so that so here is, so we have just completed step B2, which is searching PubMed using our MESH keyword or keywords, and there it is, fasting. All right. Step B3, again, all these steps are pasted in the chat box to remind everybody, is to use phrases, synonyms, or keyword combining to construct a text keyword search. We just did the mesh search, which is easy right here, fasting, and then brackets MAJR. What about our text word search? So I'm going to pull up let's pull up kind of an empty thing here so we can go through it. Okay, so give me some synonyms or phrases or keyword combining to construct a search. What word would be in an article about fasting that would tend not to be in articles that we're not interested in? There are already huge bunches of things came up. Okay, so from Leniki or Leneka or however you pronounce your name, came up with the great suggestion, water fast. Okay, so if it actually had the phrase water fasting, that is probably about fasting the therapy. In fact, it has to be, right? Okay, now she also suggested juice fasting. If you are interested in juice fasting, absolutely, you put it in there. But I think typically when people think of fasting, they're talking about like fasting. But if you're interested, certainly put it in there. But for our fasting search, I'm going to skip that one. What else? Akiuthan suggested intermittent fasting. That's a good one. Okay. And Marie also had water fast. Oh, no, that's a totally different one. Remember, we are doing text word search. It has to be exact match or it's not going to work. And so water fasting or water fast, right? Very good. Oh, all right. Okay, that's a good one. What else? Acuthan. Oh, I feel bad. I want to give people credit, but I feel terrible for saying their names wrong. But anyway, came up with another great idea. What about calorie restriction? Calorie restriction. Now that may not be strictly fasting. That may just be cutting down, but may give us some articles we're interested in. Okay. So Linda just said, not seeing anything in the chat box. All right, I'm gonna repaste again. So we're on our step B's. I'm gonna try repasting all these. Hopefully you just saw me do a big paste. Oh, I'm sorry. I was not pasting to everyone. Here, let's try this. Did everybody just see that paste? Hopefully everyone just saw that paste. We're talking about our step B's. We are on step B3 right now. Okay. Oh, water only. Oh, that's a great one. Who is that? Deborah. Deborah said, hey, what about water only fasting? That was perfect, right? So there could be totally this great article about water fasting, but they call it water only fasting, and we never would have got it unless, but thanks to, thanks to Deborah, we're totally going to nail it. All right, what else? Lynn's suggested the word abstinence, but I'm afraid we would pick up all sorts of articles that had nothing to do with fasting or diet, actually, at all. Anything else on here? Someone suggested breatharian. I bet. Is there anything? I'm going to just type in breatharian. I can't believe there's actually an article on breatharian, but let's see. Yeah, there's no breatharian. Good try, Robin, though. All right. Jan says, what about starvation? So that is not a phrase, but rather a potential synonym that might help us. You say, wait a second, I'm not interested in starvation, but articles about starvation might give us like what happens when all of a sudden you don't eat, what kind of changes in your body that might be useful. Right. So if there was an article about someone with diabetes who was locked in a closet and they had their diabetes cured, that was kind of involuntary fasting, but it would be interesting nonetheless. So I love that one. Anything else? Oh, that's a good one. Who is that? Christine suggested prolonged fasting, right? Basically, we're trying to, we can't just put in fasting. Like, why can't we just put in fasting, right? Because then it's going to pull up all those, you know, fasting glucose, fasting blood sugar, fasting cholesterol. But if something's prolonged fasting, then, oh, we're talking about fasting as a noun, not just as an adjective. So that sounds good. All right. So we got a couple good ones. Anything else? Um, oh, oh, that's a good one. Religious fasting. Oh, let's here. I'm gonna. I think I'm going off the page here. There we go. Or religious fasting. There's a bunch of religions that do fasting. Yeah, or Ramadan fasting. If you're into, now Ramadan fasting is actually just daytime fasting. So it's kind of like intermittent fasting, I guess. But if you're interested in that, we can definitely put that in. That's a good one. Laniki as another one, therapeutic fasting. Let's try that. Therapeutic fasting. All right, did I spell that right? Okay. Ooh, that's another good one from Acuthian. Wow, you're just on top of things. Or fasting therapy. Fasting therapy. These are fantastic. Anything else? Someone suggested a water fasting with a dash. It turns out that it treats basically dashes as spaces. So water space fasting is equivalent in PubMed brain to water dash fasting. So that should be okay. Just trying to see if anything else pops up. Juicy. Christine had a really interesting suggestion. Let me show you what she suggested and show you why it's not, unfortunately not going to work. But let me go back to here. Okay, so here I am. Let's go back to our mesh fasting page. Okay, fasting. Now you'll notice there are there's PubMed subheadings. Now this is different from like subject subheadings down here, but it suggests that, look, there's like fasting and mortality fasting and urine fasting and therapy. And so Christine says, why not just click the fasting therapy box? Poof, then we were perfect, right? Let's see what happens when we do that. How many thousands of articles do we get? No, we get one article, a single article published in 1947 in an undetermined language. Say, wait a second, that's not very useful. And indeed, that is not very useful. And that's why these subheadings tend to, I come across this all the time, they tend not to be very useful. So that's why we have to do this kind of entire Medline SB thing. And so let me go back to that. This looks like the best we have so far. I'm trying to think. All right, let me show you. So I've already done a fasting search. Let's see what I use. So this is a fantastic group. I'm trying to think if there's any I missed. Let's see if I missed any of these. Let me pull up a different window here. Here we go. Every year, basically, here's all the topics that I search for. searches in all the way down. Search for mangoes. I search for poop. I don't actually call it poop, but you know. So anyway, let's look at what I do for fasting, or what I did when I last searched for fasting. These are the words that I used. And you can see I came across some ones that we may not have thought of so far. So alternate day fasting, that's actually a thing where people fast every day. It's kind of a form of intermittent fasting. I'd never heard of it, but I started seeing articles about it, and so I added it to the list. We nailed intermittent fasting before periodic fasting. So there's one we didn't think of that we could include in the search. I think we got the therapeutic, we got the water only. Oh, prolonged. I forgot who thought of that, but that was excellent. Excellent because I thought of it too. Great minds think alike, obviously. I did some inappropriate nodding. Basically, I said, look, I want anything with fasting in the title, but not fasting glucose in the title. That's a little risky, but I was desperate to. Fasting is a tough search. Nightly fasting is another one. Modified fasting. I'm not sure what that is, but evidently it's a thing. Time restricted feeding. Did someone come up with that? I think someone did. Anyway, good job if you did. Caloric restriction. Oh, I think we came up with calorie restriction, but caloric restriction is another one. Here's a couple other ones. Short-term fasting, fasting therapy we nailed. Energy restriction, as in like calorie restriction, control fasting. Hunger strike, oh, there's one. Or starvation. All right, so anyway, we found very kind of a similar list of things when we did this. And so just to give folks a little peek at what I was able to come up with, I can actually show you my fasting folder. Let's see if I have that here. Yeah, here we go. So this is my 2017 articles folder. Let's see how many articles I have altogether, actually. I wonder if it'll actually show. I don't know if it'll actually show that. So if we open up my fasting articles, here are all my fasting articles. So you can see there are 700 or so of them. See down here. And so I found, so when I did those searches, I found lots of articles on fasting and longevity, fasting and hormones, fasting and cancer, breast cancer, fasting and chemotherapy, lots on cancer. Whoa. Fasting improves anti-cancer surveillance. Fasting and blood pressure, cholesterol, detox, diabetes, general fasting, intermittent fasting. This was actually all categorized. See how there are nice categories like this by our latest hire at Nutrition Facts. I want to give a shout out to Marie, who's actually on this webinar now. How did she become? How did she, why does she now have a job at NutritionFacts.org? Because she was a volunteer, in fact, a fantastic volunteer. If anyone's interested in volunteering, it's a great way to kind of get your foot in the door. Anyway, fasting and schizophrenia, migraines, neurological conditions, obesity, protein, oh my God, wonderful. Fasting and sex. What is the effect of fasting on erectile dysfunction? That's interesting. And then weight changes, pregnancy, etc. Here's all the various folders. Anyway, so as you can see, with 700 plus articles, I'm going to do a whole long, wonderful series of videos, and that's what you would find if you did fasting. But let's go back. And in fact, during the Q&A, if you want to see what articles or what other search terms I use for other searches, we can do those as well. Anyway, so let's go back to our search strategy. We are currently looking at, where were we? B. So this was B3, what you're seeing right here. A bunch of questions just came in. Thank you, Katie. Saying, why didn't I put starvation in quotes? The reason is because the quotes are to denote a phrase. So when you have multiple words, you have to put quotes around them. Otherwise, it will PubMed will split them up. This is actually, let me make this smaller. Anyway. If you did not put quotes around water fasting, it would give you all articles that include the word water in it. That's not what we want in the word fasting. So that's why all phrases have to have quotes around them. But individual words, if it's just one word, whether you put quotations around it or not, does not matter. Great question. I'm glad we could. I guess if a whole bunch of questions come in about a single thing, we can stop and do that just for clarification's sake. We don't have to wait till the end here. All right. And so basically we're going to combine our mesh keyword search. So we're on to step B. So this is step B3. What is step B4? If you remember that, step B4 is here, which is combine our mesh keyword search and an or, and then blah, blah, blah. So let's do that. What was our, if you remember, let's put that in there so we have a kind of a record of it. This was the, oh, I'm sorry. I did not send it to enough people here. I thought I pasted, but I didn't. Here, let me paste it again. All right, so here's step B4. Here's the mesh portion of the search. Here is the here's the text word portion of the search that we just came up with. And so let's put it all together. Sorry, I'm copy pasting here. That's why you're not seeing anything happening. I'm trying to copy and paste, sorry. Copy, paste. There we go. Okay. Remember what we're doing here. This is the Medline SB strategy. So we're here at B4, combining the mesh keywords with or, and then not Medline SB. Let me just make sure I do this right so I don't send people off. Not Medline SB. Okay, I think that should do it. And then I'm just about to paste that. Let's see if this does it. Okay, so that should be our X search, right? We are narrowing an exposure search, and then so to do that, we need to plug and play our X search, and there's our X search. What I just pasted, and that is the mesh portion or all the text word portion, not Medline SB. Ta-da! Okay, and then those 6 searches, plug and play, and we are done with fasting, right? So again, the tough part was coming up with our search, with that X search. And so let's go and do that for some other searches. Okay, so let's go back to our list. What was next on our list? We did fasting, or at least we constructed a search for, oh, my video disappeared. Sorry about that. I'm back. Sorry about that. Thank you, Katie, for letting me know. She's texting me live while I'm doing this. Okay, so when I say we constructed a fasting search, we constructed that kernel of the search that we would then use in those 6 steps, in the 6 C steps for an exposure search. Again, just plug and play, copy, paste, once we constructed that X search. So let's construct the X search for Alzheimer's next. And so then, is that an exposure or disease? That's a disease. So let's go. So then we'd go back to using our disease search. Okay, we are back to our disease search. First thing we have to do, we just did step A, which is determine if it's a exposure or disease. Step B is here I will copy all our B steps again and paste them. There's our B steps, paste it again. First thing we have to do, if we're interested in looking at articles on Alzheimer's and diet, is to first find a mesh, the best mesh subject heading. So no problem, we know how to do that. Let's do it. We pull up our mesh subject. I'm going to open a new thing, pubmed.gov. Click on mesh database and click in Alzheimer's. See what happens. There it is, Alzheimer's disease. First one pops up. Remember, they tend to put it by relevance, and so usually the first mesh heading that pops up is the right one. So far, that's been the case every single time. Let's click on it, Alzheimer's disease, and here we go. These are all the things that map to Alzheimer's disease. So we could have put in Alzheimer's syndrome, and it would have gave us this mesh heading as well. There are no subheadings of Alzheimer's disease. There's no like mesh headings for different types of Alzheimer's disease. So we're kind of at the end of the road hierarchy-wise. So in terms of the step B1A, we don't have to worry about that because there are no subheadings. But in B1B, step B1B, decide whether we want articles to focus on the topic at hand. Do we want Alzheimer's to be the main subject of the paper? You can decide whether you'd like to or not. We can see the difference by searching without that clicked. And what happens is it pulls up 77,000 articles versus if we just interested in the topic, into articles that are really focused on Alzheimer's disease. In fact, let's go back to that page and see what kind of things that pulled up, just looking really quickly. So there's something about treating Alzheimer's disease. All right, so they're kind of, so here's an example. So this is talking about the biological activities of some essential oil, and presumably somewhere in their list they talk about how it might be useful for Alzheimer's. But the major focus of this particular article right here is this essential oil. It's not Alzheimer's. So we would lose this article if we just presumably we would lose it if we just search for Alzheimer's as a major topic. So that's why I tend to default to not choosing it as a major topic. But if we did, we could see what would happen if we clicked that and we restricted it to just as a major topic. We would find that instead of 77,000 articles, we would have, well, it didn't really help us that much, right? So it cut it down maybe 10,000 articles. But then let's see if we are missing our essential oil paper. It looks like we are missing our essential oil paper, right? I think we would have seen it by now. I think it was in June 2017, all right? Now, I want to see that essential, if there's an essential oil, I don't know what that Latin name was, but presumably it's some plant. If there's an essential oil that helps with Alzheimer's, I'd want to know about it. So I would not restrict this search. I would decide not to click that button. So I would go back, unclick the button, and just search for Alzheimer's disease as a mesh topic. So this is what I'd use as the mesh portion for step B2. All right? And then, okay, B3, right? That'll do. every single Alzheimer disease mesh will get every single article professionally tagged as about Alzheimer's. But remember, there's 10% haven't been tagged yet. And so if there's an article about Alzheimer's with an apostrophe S, we would totally miss it if we just search for Alzheimer disease. So that's why we need to do the text portion of the search. That's step B3. And so let's do it. And again, this is really where the difficulty arises, but we have a whole group of really smart people. So let's do it. Okay. So who can give me some words that if were found in this article, it would probably be of interest, and a whole bunch of popped up. So Marcia and Raluca and Cody all said, what about dementia? Now, if we use the word dementia, we should understand that this is going to pull up articles that may not be on Alzheimer's disease, because there's different types of dementia. Dementia is kind of an umbrella term. There's vascular dementia, other types of dementia, football injury dementia. Now, but if you're interested in the effects of diet on all types of dementia, then you'd certainly include this term. If you're like, no, I'm just specifically interested in Alzheimer's. I had a family member just diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I don't care about other types of dementia. Just what can diet do for Alzheimer's specifically? You would not put in this word dementia. Since that search in the ranker list was for Alzheimer's disease and diet, I'm not going to use dementia. So I'm going to erase that. But definitely there's Alzheimer. Oh God, I can't spell. Alzheimer's disease in quotes, right? Thank you to Akuthian again. And what else? There's also his or her recommendation was Alzheimer type dementia. I'm off the. Oh, there we go. No, I'm not off the screen. Okay, Alzheimer type dementia. Of course, if I spelled dementia right. Okay. What else? Alzheimer dementia. Alzheimer dementia. Remember, you say, well, wait a second. Oh, Alzheimer's dementia. What about Alzheimer disease? I'm sure someone has Alzheimer disease. You say, wait a second, isn't that part of the mesh search? Remember, these are two completely separate searches. There's a mesh search, and that's for one body of articles, and then the text search for that 10%. So we need to make sure that anything with Alzheimer's disease comes up. All right, I'm sure there's lots of other ones. Someone suggested senile dementia. Again, that's a type of dementia, may not necessarily be Alzheimer's. What else we got? Oh, that's an excellent idea. What about, this is smart. What about Alzheimer, period, right? And then because it's like, wait a second, I never would have thought of Alzheimer's type dementia, or maybe there's Alzheimer style dementia, all those things, but they'd all be picked up by looking for anything with the word Alzheimer's. So then, wait a second, we can get rid of all these, right? We can delete these because Alzheimer would pick up all of them, just looking for Alzheimer. So that makes it easier. So we can do that, or Alzheimer's. I need to center this text thing. There we go. Or Alzheimer's, or Alzheimer's with an apostrophe. So then we don't even need this anymore, right? We can delete this part. This is super easy. Okay, so now we're down to just 3 that should pick up everything about Alzheimer's, right? Let's see if anyone else has any other suggestions. Alzheimer dementia, that'd be picked up by this. So Pam mentioned mental decline. If you're interested in mental decline, cognitive decline, absolutely we could search for that, but that'd be a different topic than Alzheimer's specifically. Alzheimer's. I'm trying to think of anyone. Yeah, so there's actually, who is this? Jesse suggests, what about beta amyloid plaques? So beta amyloid plaques, so that's actually a pathological characteristic within the brains of Alzheimer's patients. So probably anything that included that would probably be about Alzheimer's. That's a good suggestion. Oh, Daniel had a great suggestion. I'm in fact going to type that in. Well, is that the same thing? So I've heard of Alzheimer's disease described as type 3 diabetes. I don't know if that's actually how it's referred to in the literature. Let's do a quick PubMed search for type 3 and see if that's actually a thing in the medical world. So I'm going to do a mesh, not a mesh, I'm going to do a PubMed search, type 3 diabetes, and wow, there we go. Is Alzheimer's disease a type 3 diabetes? A critical appraisal. That's perfect. All right. Another option, and again, not necessarily, people may not know this, but how we often do types of diabetes is we use Roman numerals. So this could also be type II diabetes. All right, any other suggestions here? I think we have it. I think this would pick up everything. Oh, right, you're right. Someone suggested, well, just beta amyloid, then we don't have to worry about, should pick up everything. Alzheimer's, I think we're good. Alzheimer's. Oh, that's a good suggestion. Who was that? Deborah suggests, what about ApoE? ApoE. That's actually so that's kind of like the Alzheimer's gene. It might pick up things that aren't necessarily on Alzheimer's, but that might catch them. All right, so so that's our good step B3 there. And so step B4 is to combine our mesh keyword search. And so let's put it all together now. Let me pull up the Alzheimer's disease. So here was our mesh portion, if you remember. So I'm going to do the mesh portion, and then in parentheses, all these juicy things here. I'm going to use me copying and pasting over here. That not, I'm typing here, but you're not seeing it because I'm doing it in the chat box. You'll see it in a second. SB, headline SB. Okay, I think this will do it. Check my work here. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. So there's the mesh search part, and so I just pasted it into chat, or all of our text words, not Medline SB. All right. And so that right there is our X search. We would then plug that in where? We would plug that in to our disease search. And then for our lifestyle factors, we use those same dietary factors that we had before, and we pull up everything on Alzheimer's disease and diet. Ta-da! All right. We are cruising. Let's see what's next in our list here. After Alzheimer's, vitamin B12. All right, well, we know the drill. Is that an exposure? Yes, indeed, it's an exposure. Let's, if we remember, our first step then after that is to do a mesh search. So let's bring up our mesh database once again. Type in vitamin B12, see what happens. Oh, I got to spell it right. Vitamin B12. And there it is. Ta-da! Vitamin B12. There's also a vitamin B12 deficiency too that we could add in there. That's a good one. So yeah, so we could do vitamin B12. We see, are there subheadings? Oh yeah, there's hydroxycobalamin. There's different types, but we probably want all of it, all of the different types. So we're not going to click on this because we don't want it to explode. We do want it to explode. And then we're going to restrict it to a major topic. Again, my inclination is generally not to. Add that to the, get rid of this. Add that to the search builder. So is that all we need to do? Well, I remember this B12 deficiency here. That's a, I'd be interested in, presumably if you're interested in B12, you're also interested in B12 deficiency. And there's different kinds and consequences. So let's put that in as well. So we basically are, right now we're on B2, right? Figuring out what keywords, mesh keywords we're going to use. I'm going to add that as an or. Oh, that didn't work, did it work? Add to search builder. Oh, sorry. I pressed search before I was ready. Let's go back. B12 deficiency, add to search bar. Then I'm going to go back and use and add B12 as well with an or. Add to search bar. Okay, there we go. There's our PubMed search for B12. Ta-da! So it's B12. Oh, that's interesting how they spelled it. But here's our mesh. Here's the mesh part of the search right here. All right. In fact, I'll type that in here. Mesh part. Okay. So we're half done. Now, well, not half done because that's the easy part, is finding the mesh headings. Now we have to come up with B3, our phrases, synonyms, keyword combining. So let me go to a blank spot while people are already coming up with good suggestions. All right, here we go. All right, whip them out. Yes, so someone suggested, Marcia suggested B12. If I just say B12, how many things are B12? You don't even have to say vitamin. Or how about B12? Or any other way we can spell this? Oh, Ellie says, what about cobalamin? Yes, cobalamin is a kind of a scientific name. Cobalamin. Or, oh, Leneka says, what about methylcobalamin? That's one of the types you see in supplements, methylcobalamin. There we go. Oh, Christine, oh, and a whole bunch of people suggested cyanocobalamin, that's another type, or cyanocobalamin. Or, oh, wow. And then there's, Bridget says hydroxycobalamin. Actually, I think it's hydroxycobalamin. Hydroxycobalamin. Is that hydroxycobalamin? Did I spell that right? Let's find out. I'm gonna just go back to my browser here, and I'm just gonna do a Google search for hydroxycobalamin and see what comes up. No, oh my God, I was totally wrong. I apologize to Christine. It's hydroxycobalamin, I guess. Yeah, there it is. Wikipedia, hydroxycobalamin. I totally spelled it wrong. I'm so glad I checked. Let's go back. I'm probably mispronouncing it too. Hydroxycobalamin. All right, any other suggestions? Adenosylcobalamin. That's indeed another form. I don't know if you can actually buy it. Adenosylcobalamin. Now, how would you find these if you didn't know off the bat? Well, you could search Google for vitamin B12 synonyms, or look at the Wikipedia page, or let me see if anyone else has any other suggestions. Oh, wow. A few people mentioned intrinsic factor. And you said, what is that? Well, these people know their nutrition. Intrinsic factor is something our body makes to actually help absorb vitamin B12. So an article about intrinsic factor is probably about B12. So that's a good one too. Wow. Oh, Cody says, what about pernicious anemia? That is a synonym for vitamin B12 deficiency, or one manifestation of vitamin B12 deficiency. What else? Wow, these are fantastic. Oh, and now Marcia says, well, wait a second, what about capital B12? You don't have to worry about that. PubMed, when it comes to search terms, doesn't care about capitalization. And so, well, but interestingly, it does care about capital. See how all my ors are capitalized? It actually does care whether it's lowercase or uppercase OR. And if you try to PubMed search with lowercase OR and says, hey, it works fine for me, well, actually, it doesn't. You think it does, but it doesn't. In fact, let me show you an example. Oh, we're running out of time, but this is just such a weird example, and I don't want anyone to make this mistake. I'm going to show you a PubMed search that is going to blow your mind. Are you ready? PubMed search for arm or leg or hand. Okay? Let's see how many articles come up. Okay, remember this number, 600. All right, I'm gonna paste it in the chat box. That's how many articles on arm or leg or hand. For those of you skeptical that thinks that capital OR or lowercase OR matters, I'm gonna just do arm or leg or hand with capitals, the way you're supposed to do it. And let's see what happens now. Oh, did that not work? That was my big example. And it looks like it came out. Darn it! I could have swore that actually made a difference. Let me try this again. Okay, 143,887. My fancy example may not work. See what just happened? Okay, 21,000 articles, and if you use a lowercase and, we get 143,000 articles. That's why it matters. Now, it doesn't matter if hand is uppercase or lowercase. What matters is the PubMed Boolean words, the or, the and, the not. Those do have to be capitalized, and I'm glad I was able to actually show you that. All right, let me go back to where we were here. I think we got a really juicy list here. And so let's compose our final bit. So we have our, here's our text part. And we already did the PubMed part. So I just pasted but that's not our full B4, step B4. I gotta pull up our mesh search we did before. Remember, it was spelled a little weird, so I want to make sure I get it exactly right. I'm just doing a mesh search for B12 again, really quick. B12. Oh yeah, but we were going to do the combined one, right? Thing is, it's so lost in my chat field, my chat box. All right, I'm going to do it really quick. Add the search bar. Okay. Vitamin B12 deficiency. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm redoing step B2 because it's lost way up my chat box. But okay, here we go. So here's the PubMed portion. And we just had that text portion, and so now let me combine them. PubMed portion, or the text portion, copy paste again, not SB, not SB. Okay, I think this is going to do it. Okay, I just pasted the chat. Check my work here. So that's our mesh portion. Oh, no, I screwed it. I messed that up, right? Because I said vitamin B12 deficiency and vitamin B12. No, we want an or there. So I'm going to fix that. Okay, now look at my work. Okay, so there's the mesh portion, vitamin B12 deficiency or vitamin B12, or all our text words and phrases, not Medline SB. Boom, there's our X search for vitamin B12, which we can now use in our exposure search. 6 searches away, and we're done. And indeed, we are in Q&A time. In fact, 1 minute late for Q&A time. If you didn't ask a question, if you have a question, now is the time to ask. And our volunteer, wonderful volunteer, is giving us, sending me questions now. Okay, several questions were covered. Okay. The volunteer said that many of the questions that came through I actually covered in my in the original research webinar last month. And so you have the link now to the entire 4-hour thing. You have the presentations, you have the notes for that one piece. So better than, in terms of, wait a second, what is mesh? What is PubMed? All those really basic stuff I already covered, so I don't want to cover those again, but definitely check out the recording of the first one. Okay, but in terms of questions relevant to this one, Greg asks, for Alzheimer's, wouldn't a mesh search give an excessively wide range of results when we're looking for specific diet? Fantastic question. Okay, so let's go back to the disease search. Okay, let me repeat that question because I want everyone to understand. So for Alzheimer's, wouldn't me doing that mesh search give an excessively wide range? Would give you everything about Alzheimer's and not specifically just diet. Remember, we're looking at Alzheimer's and diet. That's what this part is here. See how every single one of these 6 has lifestyle factors attached to it. So when we're doing that mesh and text, when we're doing that step B4, or the step B generally in constructing the search, that's just constructing this. What we've been doing over and over and over for each of those, just constructing the little red bit here. Then that's not the search. That's just this right here. And then we have to add in all the rest of these into a series of 6 searches. And each of those include the lifestyle factors, which here would be diet. So yes, this pulls in all the Alzheimer's thing, but this restricts it to just the dietary ones. That's how we're able to do this. So I'm so glad, in case anyone else was confused, what we've been going through, that B4 final step, and then I'm like, all right, that one's done. Fasting is done. Let's move on to the other one. It's done only in that we've come up with this little bit here. And you say, well, wait a second, why not? I mean, and then what about all the C steps? The C steps is the actual narrowing steps. And those are all literally just plug and play. We're going to copy paste here on the X search we came up with. We're going to copy paste here all those dietary terms we came up with, and then just do them one after another. So thank you, Greg, for asking that. I don't want people to be confused. That was not the search we came up with for Alzheimer's and diet. This is the search we came up with for Alzheimer's and diet. This entire 7 search series is how we're going to get at all those articles. But it all starts with that kernel right here, and that's what we came up with in these examples. All right. All right. Michael, another Michael, asks, are there other databases other than PubMed that one might use from other countries, for example? PubMed is considered, as I talked about in the last webinar, is considered the international go-to for all biomedical articles in any language, on any subject, includes even veterinary medicine as well. And so they're really The only time one would move away, actually try some other type of database, is if you are getting away from strictly medical into, for example, the social sciences or humanities. For example, a lot of the work, a lot of the videos I do are on like behavioral change, right? Yeah, diet is good. This particular diet is good or bad. This food is good or bad. How do you actually get people to eat it? How do you get your kids to eat it? That's actually, that's more in the psychology literature in terms of behavioral change. And so sometimes on certain topics, I might actually look at those at different databases because that's not strictly biomedicine. And so that would be the time when I would go to other databases. And you can search for those databases at any kind of academic institution. You walk into their library, sit down, and pull up their list of databases, and as a topic, search in psychology or search in anything you're interested in, and it'll pull up all those particular databases. Or you can go straight to Web of Science. For those who don't know what Web of Science is, look in that homework PDF, and it describes, and it has a billion citations in it. Hopefully you'll find what you need there. All right, Joseph asks, how do I get the sidebar to come up in PubMed that keeps track of all the desired articles you want to look at? Oh, okay. I'm so glad these are questions asked. I'm going to go back to Firefox here, my browser. Okay. So Joseph asked, well, wait a second, how do I get this really cool sidebar here with all those articles I'm interested in? Remember, we clicked on these articles I'm interested in. This is just, these are just tabs. These are simple browser tabs. They look weird because I have an extension that I believe the extension is called Vertical Tabs. Let me look. These are all my extensions. Vertical Tabs. No, it's not called Vertical Tabs. Well, Vertical Tab. I'm trying to think what my tab. Anyway, I have some kind of tab add-on that allows me to list them on the side rather than the top, because on the top there's just no way they'd fit because I have hundreds of tabs open at one time. So this sidebar is something that has to do with the browser, not something that has to do with PubMed. Thank you, Joseph, for asking that question. Okay, Holly wants to know, hello, Holly, if I have a favorite browser. Oh, I do, absolutely. This is Firefox. And the reason that I love it so much is because of these extensions where I can add in all sorts of functionality. I'm trying to see if there's anything in particular, like you can block all those ads. Like here, you probably have these really annoying images here. I don't, because I have ad blocker, which is a way to block those annoying ads. I've got my Amazon Smile button set up so I can donate to NutritionFacts.org every time I order something. I'm trying to think some of these other ones that might be interested to other people. You click this and you can download pages as PDFs, or like websites as PDFs. Oh, here's that unpaywall browser that I mentioned before in last web. Anyway, so that's the reason I like Firefox. Melissa asks if I use a reference manager. Fantastic question. What is a reference manager? Basically, it's a database that you set up on your computer that lists all the articles you have. I've found that that's not really necessary for me because I just use because the search function. So I have all my PDFs here. They're all this is actually an article about water fasting in GQ magazine or whatever. I have the computer, so I'm using a Mac. I can do a search and it'll pick up the text within a PDF, as well as, here's the title, that's actually the name of these articles. The nice thing about having a reference manager is that you know if you have an article or not, but I can just do a simple search and find it without, so I The only time I would need a reference manager is, for example, when I was writing the book and you need to insert citations. So if you're writing a paper, writing a book, that makes a lot of sense. And I use EndNote, which just seems to work well with Macs. But for day-to-day video writing, I just dump them all in a folder. A folder that is, how big is this folder? So this is I have 371. No, that's not how many I have. Let me see. Can I get info on this? There we go. Oh, can you see that? No. I have 42.7 gigs. Oh, it doesn't actually show up on the thing. But 49,086 articles in my 2017 articles folder. Lots of new videos coming up. And our time is up. Sorry if I didn't get to your question. I do live Q&As every month. I'd be happy to, on YouTube or Facebook, be happy to answer questions about the research webinar. We'll get you the recordings. We'll get you the notes, anything else you need. Stay tuned. Hopefully in a few months, we'll do that how to read a research article webinar. And hope this was useful. Even though it wasn't much new material, it was just processing and how to actually do these searches. And hope it gave people some tips. And hope everybody has a wonderful weekend and a wonderful summer. Goodbye, everybody.